Hi, I'm George Riedel, a professor here at Harvard Business School. I'm joined by 4 of our students here. We welcome you to a Facebook Live session to reach out to veterans to give you a better sense of what it's like to be at Harvard Business School. I'll give you a brief description of my background, and I'm going to ask my colleagues on the panel here to give you their background, and then we'll jump into some Q&A and then save some time for your questions. Short version, I teach in the first year program. I teach 2 subjects, TOM, or Technology and Operations Management, and LCA, which is a leadership course in the second semester. Dad was in the military, my brother's in the military, so I've been close to the military for quite some time. Prior to coming back to teach at HBS, I spent a number of years as a consultant at McKinsey and as a tech entrepreneur in a range of different industries as a CEO on various boards. So let me ask our other panelists here, or students, to give their introductions to some background, then we'll jump into the substance. Erin, you want to start off?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Erin Cabon. I served in the United States Army for 7 years before coming to school, and I was a military intelligence officer. My last duty station was at Fort Campbell with the 101st and 3rd Brigade, Rakkasans, for those who get the joke. Okay. And before that, I'm from Virginia, and I originally joined the Army because, again, family and legacy.
Good. Phil.
Hi, everyone. My name is Philip Jones. Very similar to Erin. I joined the military because throughout my family, at least 4 generations have been in the military. My parents are both Air Force, so I had to break their heart and go to the Naval Academy. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But from the Naval Academy, I did Marine Corps Infantry for 6 years. 2 amazing deployments. I had a great time. I'm also from Virginia as well, and I'm a RC here at HBS.
Good. Jessica.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jessica Stevenson. I come from a long line of military, just like everyone else apparently so far. My father was the first one to serve as a career military officer after graduating from West Point. I did the same, my brother as well. I served as an aviation officer and an attack helicopter pilot. Some people know them as Apaches, and that's always interesting to explain that here at HBS. And let's see, as far as post-HBS, I'm looking for general management opportunities and just very excited to be here today.
Good, thank you.
Hi there, I'm Tim Buin. I'm originally from Jacksonville, Florida. I think I just watched Top Gun a couple too many times, so always wanted to do it, always wanted to fly for the Navy. Was lucky enough to go to the Naval Academy. I'm a 2009 graduate. Was in the Navy for 10 years, flew F-18s and then switched over to F-35s, and am now here at HBS. I was able to do some process refinement with the F-35 program, and I'm kind of hoping to continue that in management consulting after my time here at HBS.
So terrific. Well, given it's Veterans Day weekend, we thought it would be timely to have a discussion with you folks. So I'm going to ask these folks a set of questions about different phases of their journey to get to HBS and the transition into it. So go back to when you were thinking about applying and talk us through what was on your mind, what were you thinking about, what were the challenges before you came to HBS. Erin, can I start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the danger seat. I sat right next to you.
You're too close.
So before I ever even thought about HBS, I think I was in 5th grade when I first heard the word Harvard. I was like, that sounds like somewhere I want to be. So it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to get a master's degree later on. And so I was in Afghanistan for the first time when one of my friends was talking about applying to HBS. And he talked a lot about the school and what he hoped to get out of the program. And so that jogged kind of like my initiative and to start researching the school. But before I applied, I was in Afghanistan for the 2nd time, and I was really worried about taking the GMAT because I could only take the GRE while I was deployed.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I was really worried if the school actually was going to kind of look at my tests the same way they look at everyone else with the GMAT. And so that was kind of one of the things I was most afraid of. And so all I was able to do was take the GRE, and I did it on deployment, and here I am today. So if you're only able to do the GRE, and you're worried about that being a prohibitive factor for the school letting you in, don't worry about it. There's some of us here. And then I also was wondering whether or not I would find the same mission and purpose on the outside as I found on the inside while in the Army. And I really can tell you that it's not the same experience. You're going to miss the camaraderie, you're going to miss the friendships, but you can find a lot of the same things on the outside, and you just have to decide what's important to you. And I know for me, I wanted to have an impact a little bit sooner, I think, on a larger scale. And I thought that through business and through the HBS experience, I'd be able to do that.
Terrific. Phil, what about you?
I think I had a very kind of similar approach. For me, the biggest, hardship would be the GMAT, and I would encourage all of the veterans start early with that process, whether it's the GMAT or the GRE. Definitely take the time. It's a very difficult test, but if you start a year or 18 months before you apply, that's more than enough time. There's so many people that want to help you succeed, so definitely do well on that test. Coming out of the Marine Corps, I knew that I wanted to switch to the private sector to give me just some more experience in that part of life. I'm really interested in economic mobility for Hampton Roads, where I'm from, and I knew that an MBA would help me kind of navigate that path. So I was thinking about law school or an MBA, and I kind of settled in the middle. So I'm a HBS, HKS degree, so I'm doing an MBA and MPP to kind of get the private sector and the public sector combined together.
So it's a dual degree.
It is dual degree, so it's 2 masters in 3 years. First year at the Kennedy School, and then the second year at HBS. Third year is going to be split. So that was kind of my, not law school, but not it's a hybrid, if you will.
All right, good. Jessica.
So for me, I wanted to stay in the military and teach at West Point. And I wanted to do that in an engineering discipline. So early on, I had been targeting what kind of graduate schools could I go to. So I had prepped the GRE years before business school had ever come into view. When I decided that I wasn't going to be able to stay and make a career in the military due to some medical reasons, I started looking at opportunities. And I saw a few of my friends who were at West Point at about the same time as I was, who were here doing very well. And I was like, they can go to Harvard. I can go to Harvard. And started to look into what exactly their lives were about, what they were doing, getting an MBA, and what that meant for your future. I got really excited about the opportunity to continue in a leadership capacity. And ultimately, I mean, it's Harvard Business School to develop leaders who make a difference in the world really struck a chord with me. So I threw the Hail Mary pass with the GRE, and I'm here.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That really resonates with me. The emphasis on leadership here, if that's something that was important to you in the military, that will continue to be something that's valuable at HBS. I know for me, I just had some friends who had gotten out of the military and pursued MBAs, and so the opportunity to potentially have a greater impact, potentially still in the public sector, using kind of private sector solutions is a common theme I've heard. So that's kind of what I'm interested in doing. In terms of some worries or reservations that I had as I was applying, I think I overthought my story, my narrative, kind of, which if some of you out there are applying, you might be struggling with that too. And it kind of turned into a don't overthink it thing. Like, I mean, you're a fighter pilot, you're a Marine infantry officer. These are all amazing stories. Whatever you did in the military, that is your story, and just kind of stick with that. And I think that's what eventually helped me out the most.
Terrific. So you thought about it for different reasons. You apply. Some folks have concerns about, are they ready for Harvard Business School? And I know we do a number of things to help prepare the certificate of readiness for the summer program, for whether it's analytic skills or economics or finance or stuff like that. Were there other things that you did to help prepare before you came here?
I've actually got one. I might have over-indexed on the preparation. So on the advice of a friend, actually another former Navy pilot, he's been retired for some time now, but he is in investment management, and he said, hey, the CFA level 1 is like an MBA, kind of like, compartmentalized into a box. So if you study for that and, pass it or not, it'll get you into that rhythm of studying and kind of that academic momentum, which 10 years out now from undergrad, I did not have that. So it definitely prepared me. A lot of the material I've at least had exposure to at this point because of that. And it also just got me into the habit of budgeting time, studying, and I think it definitely helped me hit the ground running here. So that was hugely helpful. I don't know if I recommend that for everybody. It was a lot. HBS has some great resources, which are probably better tailored. But it's a good certificate that if you want to pursue that, you have that check in the box as well. So
I can probably speak to the other side of that. So I did not do that. I spent my EAS summer traveling around different countries, so I didn't have the time for that. But what I did do was
For fun.
I promise. But I did the HBX core curriculum. So it's essentially divided into analytics, economics, and I forget the third one. But it's a 3-part series, and it prepares you immensely for the RC or the first year at HBS. I didn't have a finance background, being an infantry officer in the Marine Corps. We don't really talk about the finance aspect of it too much.
Margins, what are those?
Yeah, margins, ROI. But it took about 2.5 months. You can do it online, and it's very, very helpful for me in my first 100 days here at HBS.
Yeah, and I think maybe the lightest solution is something that I did. The school actually gives you, I think it's like 6 months for free with Wall Street Prep. Yeah. And I found that to be really useful. I had never heard of financial modeling. I thought it must have been like this 3D thing. I couldn't fathom what it was. It turns out it's just an Excel doc, really simple. But the school gives you the resources to kind of get spun up on those types of requirements that you're going to have to do later. So I got some exposure to Excel and some other like accounting terms just through this free program.
Terrific. So it sounds like a range. Sorry, Jessica.
So I worked all the way up until a month before coming to school. So I didn't get to do any of these, which sound like great ideas. I highly recommend them. But if you're crunched for time, like I just started going through every podcast that had Harvard Business School or the Harvard Business Review in it. Anything I could get my hands on from The Economist, like really paying attention to like, how could I talk about this in an educated manner with other people who have this experience? So if you have the time, this sounds really great. I definitely didn't, and I feel like it was time well spent.
Good. So a range of different solutions from the over-index to the light touch. Good.
Like a pilot. Sounds like.
Did you have a checklist too, sir?
I did.
Okay. So you get here. Yeah. Tell me about the first 100 days. You sort of walk into this place. It's a bit daunting, I suspect. Tell us about the first 100 days. Tim, I'm going to start with you. Tell me the transition story.
Yeah, first 100 days. So, if you're leaving the military, like all of us did, and as many of you will be doing, that is a whole process in and of itself, leaving the military and then, matriculating here. I also worked right up till the last couple of weeks, so that was just a huge hurdle to get over. I was kind of dealing with life issues, in terms of just getting our household goods to our new place, getting moved in. Just the timing of all that was very hectic for me. On top of that, I'm married. I have 2 little girls who are 2 and 6 months old, so that was busy as well, just the whole transition for them, new place, new environment, all that. So it was really hectic. I would say that if you do have a family, it's a little bit higher barrier to entry with your section, and you might have to get your life squared away first before you can kind of dive into that. On the other hand, the whole FOMO aspect, fear of missing out with all the events and social things, like I did not have to worry about that because I kind of had my priorities. I had to focus on my family. So that dominated my first 100 days, as well as just kind of the adjustment to the academics and the schedule.
Which was tougher, the academics or the sort of move or the social challenges?
They were pretty equal. I was trying to balance everything, but I'd say they were pulling me all in different directions, but fairly equally so. So I tried to divide it up as best I could. The other big thing that surprised me was just the tempo of, in the military we used to, an email comes out with, action required, and it's usually 2 weeks out, I'd say, something like that. And if it's not, the person that sent it did not prepare well. Here, it's typical that you get an email and it's like, I need this tomorrow or this afternoon. So I was not ready for that, and I just missed some things because the turnaround was really quick. So be aware of that. Stay on top of your email and all that kind of thing, so you don't miss out on some potential section events and just bonding, basically.
Terrific. Jessica, what about you?
So I definitely hit the ground running and wanted to focus on my academics. So the first thing that I did was I started talking to student academic services about, could I get tutors? I knew I was going to need them. With some of my medical concerns, like how would I work that around with appointments and how were the professors going to work with me on that? I also did a lot of trying to figure out like which career path should I start looking into. I wasn't sure when I showed up, and that was where I think those time-sensitive decisions about to sign up for different career talks or industry panels became really important early on. So for anybody else out there that doesn't really know what they want to do in their next phase of life, I highly recommend, say yes to everything you can, but make sure to take care of yourself, leave some time for you, because at the end of the day, it's very busy here. It's been a year and a quarter and some change, and it's just flown by. So in those first 100 days, just try and settle and pick a couple of paths that you're really interested in. There's always time to correct.
Very good.
Yeah, I think I would say there's so much to do here at HBS. You have to be deliberate about how you spend your time. So for myself, I know I wanted to do well here. So I was very, very keen on doing well academically. So I studied a lot for the cases, and also I was very involved in my section. So Section I love them. They're amazing. But there's probably 2 section events a day. So I was doing grades as well as section stuff. I think I made a good combination of combining both like having fun, but still studying very, very hard.
Good. Erin?
Yeah, absolutely. The first 100 days were so daunting. I was 5.5 months pregnant before I came to campus, and I was so worried. I was like, is anybody going to be my friend? Like, I was just like this giant pregnant lady. But I could not have imagined the warmth I was going to feel from my section mates, from everyone else that I've experienced at school. the support from the professors. Luckily, I didn't need much. My daughter was born like 5 days after the end of the exams the first semester, so timing could have worked out better. But even with academics, because I also overly indexed on academics, not coming from a business background, I really wanted to make sure I was getting the most out of my experience. But the amount of time that my classmates offered up in order to help teach me like accounting and finance and some of these very hard technical skills, I was blown away. They would spend like an hour or two out of their day just to try and like help teach their fellow students, and I thought that that was really incredible.
Let me follow up on a couple of topics you guys raised. In the military, you will talk about unit cohesion, and here we have a section. You want to explain what a section is and how they operate and what it means in terms of the sort of social and other aspects of the community here?
Yeah, you have the section.
I think I can say I have the best section here at HBS. So,
Boo.
Anyway, section I. So the way HBS divides the class is in 10 different 94-person section. And so you take all of your classes with that section. So you sit in one seat 2 or 3 times a day for 6 months, and they switch it at the end. So it is 94 people who usually become very, very close, almost like a platoon or a company minus, if you will. You see them all the time. You go to parties together. You study together. They really form like the first level of your friends here at HBS.
Terrific. Others want to add anything about this section?
Yeah, I would just add that it makes HBS feel small. I mean, there are almost 1,000 people in your class, but your section is kind of your unit, and you're going to know all of them. You'll be shocked how quickly you learn everyone's names. I mean, within a few days, honestly, like for the most part. And then that small unit kind of facilitates your branching out because they're all going to have friends in different sections, and it just makes this place feel so much smaller and just so much more honestly like a family, and your section will absolutely feel that way. So I think it's a great way to make this place manageable even though there's 1,000 people here per class.
Yeah, and I feel like it really has transcended into second year as well. Some of my best moments throughout the day are when I just run into random section mates that I wasn't expecting. And it's just like, it makes you feel like you're more at home at school after you have like these 100 very close friends.
Terrific. You both also, several of you touched on other support services, whether it's the student academic services or career planning, SAS and CPD in our speak. Can you talk a bit about what they've done to help you in terms of how they support your journey?
Sure, I'll kick that one off. So student academic services is very helpful. They run a lot of different clinics, like how should you be reading cases, how should you be preparing for cases, and when it gets time for exams, like how do you respond and write a final exam when you're given a case and a prompt and it's like, okay, go. So I really enjoyed all of their clinics. They're wonderful people. You can schedule an appointment or be like me and just drop by and ask for help, and they'll help you either way. And because they just bend over backwards to help everyone, it's the friendliest, like customer-facing staff at any institution that I've ever participated in, like whether it's your ed center or your university. Like everyone here just wants to see you succeed. And I would mention, my back hurts. Is there anything we can do about that? And they're like, oh yeah, actually, we've got chairs. We can give you a standing desk. They came up with all sorts of different accommodations that I didn't even think about asking for. So if you've got anything going on in your life, they're there to help you. Academic, personal, they can refer you to somebody if they don't have the answer. And then CPD was just as helpful in trying to find like the fit for you. You can make special appointments with career advisors, and they'll hear, like, these are my ambitions, these are my goals, and then they try and help you find ways that you'll feel fulfilled in your life or things that might be a good fit for you. And again, just amazing people. Every time I go in, I leave with at least 2 or 3 more people. They're like, look them up on LinkedIn. They're a section mate of mine. They'd love to talk to you about X, Y, or Z. So just super outgoing and very helpful.
About others, SAS or CPD thoughts?
Just to the even like pretty conventional level, like if you need a tutor, they're there. I signed up for tutoring for FRC and FIN, so obviously I didn't do enough beforehand in spite of I signed up for a tutor, and they're actually typically second year students, so maybe you guys are tutors yourselves, but that just makes it really relatable, and they just went through what you're going through now, so they totally understand your situation, and they're all very good, and they're very happy to help. So that was phenomenal for me to get that kind of targeted help and feedback from them, and resolve some issues that I wasn't understanding in class.
Terrific.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the veterans don't want to ask for help, whether it's for finance or accounting or for other things. And I would say, I think the stat is 20% of people here actually use the tutoring service. So I have 2 tutors, one for finance and one for accounting, and they've been very, very helpful in helping me achieve high grades during the midterms. So it's hard for vets to come in without a financial background and do well here unless you take the time to either study or get a tutor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's free.
It's free.
Which
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
I've never been anywhere where so many of these services are free.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good point, Phil, because I think there is a stigma associated with asking for help. And last stat I saw, I think roughly half of the class ask for some kind of SAS service eventually. So it's a well-supported area. A couple of you talked about family and partners. How does that fit in the community of HBS? Is that easy? Is it hard? How's it work for them?
Absolutely. So I might have had one of the more unique situations. So my husband is still in the Army. He's stationed at Fort Bragg right now. And so we've been doing long distance. We did long distance while I was pregnant. And then once Odette was born, he was in Iraq. So we really had kind of the full gambit of long distance relationships and managing that with children. But it's 100% doable. My mom, luckily, was able to come up and help. But there's a lot of daycare centers on campus, and students can utilize that if they need it. Yeah. But I think what was the most helpful for me was just how welcoming everyone was to me. I brought my daughter to every section event. My mom came. So just how welcoming everyone in the community was. And then if you're a mom, there's a mom MBA group. Yeah. There's just so many small niche clubs that it's they're hand tailored towards you. It's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd add on to that. My section has been so supportive of my family. So they love Anna, my wife, and Margot and Millie, our daughters. They even love our dog. We show up and it's a lot. It's kind of overwhelming. We roll in, but they're amazing. They make us feel included at pretty much every event that we do. I will say it's challenging just because your time is going to be occupied by HBS from morning largely till night. I mean, you're in class all day. You're probably prepping for cases in the evening, and then at this point in the year, we're doing a lot of recruiting depending on what field you're interested in. So that takes up a lot of your day. So your partner will, they'll be wondering what you're doing all the time. But I think it goes to expectation management, communication, helping them realize and showing to them the support network that's available through HBS makes that all a lot more manageable and easier. And it's been it's at this point challenging at first, but it gets better every day, and we're really enjoying the experience at this point already. So,
good. Different topic. How approachable are the professors here? How much relationship and time with them do you get outside of class?
Yeah, as much as you want, more or less. You can schedule appointments to meet up with them. You don't even have to talk to them about class. A lot of them have either side projects that they're working on, or they ran this massive business before school. So you can pretty much talk to them about whatever you want. But I found that they've been very, very accessible. You can either talk to them before or after class. Like I said, you can go to their office hours, and everyone is more than willing to help you with anything else that you need. A couple of professors helped me link up with other resources when I wasn't sure where to go. And so I felt like that was one of the most enjoyable experiences here, was just some of the long-term connections I'm going to have with some of my professors.
Yeah, I would say I've gone to office hours or lunch with all 5 of my professors.
Lunches.
Yeah, so lunches are awesome. There's a small group, 6 of your section mates and your professor. You can talk about anything. So it's never about work or about school, but just about what is your passions, what are your goals, how can I help you? And I think HBS does a good job of facilitating that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, professors in general are extremely generous with their time.
Yeah.
I mean, for my Fin 2 professor, I scheduled a 20-minute office hour call just to say, hey, by the way, this is hard, and I'm really trying. What do you recommend I work on? And it turned into an hour-and-a-half tutoring session where she walked me through the basic building block where I was getting stuck repeatedly. And I was like, wow, I don't think I had any sort of attention like that when I went to West Point, very small classes. But if you asked for office hours, it was hard capped at 30 minutes. But she found the flexibility with her schedule to make sure that I understood this one topic. So, I mean, that's just the best example I have for you.
I've just got one quick anecdote, which should be hopefully appreciated by this audience. We had our Veterans Day event last night for HBS, and we all invited, all of our professors essentially across all the sections. And I know for me, I think we had like 4 of our 5 professors show up, and just to give you an idea of how much they engage with the student community, they were there, happy to be there, and it was awesome to chat with them at that event. So, and just kind of share some of our background. So
Terrific.
Yep.
So, what was the hardest part of leaving the military to come here? What was the sort of tough decision aspect? Phil, you want to start?
I will. I think in the Marine Corps Infantry, very, very close. So you're with your platoon, your company on like a day-to-day basis. I think it's hard to find that mission outside of the military. And so for me, it was a deliberate choice of, okay, I know this, I know the Marine Corps, I know where I'm going to be in the next 5 to 10 years, but I'm going to make a choice to leave it and perhaps so personally, I want to go back into some type of public sector service, whether it's Department of Defense, Department of Navy. So I was making a choice to leave the military, gain some experience in the private sector, and then hopefully go back in some capacity as a civilian to help kind of make it more efficient and run better.
Okay. Jessica, what do you think?
Yeah, I think for me, I wasn't planning on leaving, so I think that was first and foremost, like, the hardest part about leaving the military was finding out I was leaving. And having to make that decision, having a lot of hard conversations with mentors, my boss at the time, and people that I really respected. And then I would say, like, once that part was over, I threw myself wholeheartedly into this new life. And the only reason I've been able to navigate it as well is because of the relationships that I've built here at HBS. Like, yes, I have my Army family I can fall back on, but my section mates have been fantastic in hearing me out about, like, what my frustrations have been at different times, whether it's been like being put in the Army box, and they're like, Jessica stays in this Army box, and we don't know her as anything else, but actually I'm very funny. So I like to be known for other things. And my professors as well. Professor Riedel, you were one of mine who's there to listen and there to, like, this is what I'm thinking, but I'm not sure. And it's okay to not know, and there's going to be people who help you do that and figure that out.
Yeah, I think one of the obvious answers is just the camaraderie, the fear of leaving that. I mean, in my case, honestly, I wasn't running away from the Navy. I had kind of done everything I wanted to do, and I was really running towards, HBS. It was something that was a big goal of mine. So I was, it was bittersweet. I was sad to leave, but happy to come to HBS. I would say for me, the fear of like buyer's remorse. This was kind of my dream job. I'd done everything I wanted to do, but am I going to leave it and all of a sudden realize, once it's really gone, am I going to kind of realize what I had and have a bunch of regret? But haven't felt that yet, and I would just say that even for the camaraderie piece, it exists beyond the military. So the veterans group here is a great example. I think that's going to persist kind of regardless. So I've been happy to see that since I've been here.
Terrific. So when you think back to your application process, and if you had to give advice about what you thought stood out from your story, your narrative, your application, what would be the 1 or 2 things you'd sort of highlight for others to sort of contemplate about?
Yeah, I can take this. Kind of like I mentioned a little bit already. My big thing that I took away from it was just don't overthink it. Whatever you did in the military was because you're so in it and you're so involved in it. It's hard to see just how impressive it is, just how significant and impactful it probably was. Talk to people who aren't in the military. Bounce whatever your story is off them and try to get a sense of what that impact is to them. Somebody who's not familiar with what we do. And I think that's a great way to kind of gauge your story and really get your narrative down. So for me, that was what I struggled with. And at the end of the day, it was like the most obvious thing in the world. I had deployed to Iraq and Syria and been involved with counter-ISIS operations, and that was just what I did. But people, that's not everybody gets to do that. So that was kind of part of my story.
And I just want to echo something that you had mentioned. I think that the school really values leadership experience, and that's just something I want to reiterate to the audience. It doesn't matter what your experience was in the military, you were a leader. So I think that that's something that the school really values. And so don't, like you said, don't get wrapped up in like, oh, am I telling the right story? Because who you are as a person and all of your experiences really have culminated in developing you into a leader that the school would love to have in their community.
Terrific. So go back to the daunting interviews that were part of the application.
God,
I'm starting to sweat.
You've recovered.
Pressure.
So what surprised you or stumped you in the interview questions? What was your least favorite aspect of that?
I think for me, so I was in the field all week. So I was outside, I was camping in the field. We had the Marine Corps Marathon that Saturday at 4 a.m., did that, and then I had to fly straight to Boston. So I kind of came here already a little bit tired. I got ready, I got my music, I stayed at my best friend's house in Boston, and I walked into the interview. And I think first 30 minutes, I probably blacked out. But I think the question that got me was, what type of leader are you? And I just kind of froze. Like, I had just been a platoon commander. I had been in charge of a lot of people, and it was such a simple question, but I froze for it was probably only 4 seconds, but for me felt like 35 seconds. And I had to stop and be like, okay, what type of leader am I? And so that was kind of my tricky question.
Yeah, I think for me, the interview was extremely intimidating because I ended up stepping into the room with Chad Losey, just one-on-one. No scribe, like they tell you to expect.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's all on this, Jessica. If you piss off the director of admissions, like, you are not getting in. And 2 questions really stood out to me as unusual. Just in a leadership story, tell me about a time when you struggled. I told a story about having a difficult soldier once upon a time, and I just kept getting, and then what? And then what? And eventually I was like, yeah, it was a verbal negative counseling right there on the spot. How did he react? I was not expecting them to run down that path so detailed. And then the other thing I would just tell you, in general, they are very well prepared. I was surprised at the level of which they had internalized the information inside of my packet. Yeah. And I said something like very casually, like, I've always enjoyed coaching. At the very bottom of my resume, it says that I had been a youth soccer coach. And Chad's response was, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you volunteer as a soccer coach. And I was like, oh, they really read every detail and try and get to know you before they come in so you can have a very normal conversation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I agree with the preparation thing. My question that surprised me, I got a little pushback question, which was, are you conflict adverse, basically? And I'm not going to bore you with the story, but that was one of the big lessons learned from my last job in the military, is that I probably was at one point. And so, just being able to walk them through something like that, even if they're definitely not adversarial, but they might push on you just a little bit to kind of see how you react. So if they take that tone, just relax and just remember your story and what you've done, and I think it'll be fine. And just one other thing, I know Philip, you said you came here to Harvard for your interview. So I went to the one in California, maybe a little bit different experience. As long as you visited here at some point, like Military Perspective Student Day is a great opportunity to do that. Especially for this audience, so I definitely encourage everyone to do that and visit at some point, interview or not.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to follow up on that. If you're not able to go to one of the alternative sites for your interview, I did Skyping. I was in the field and I couldn't get out of a field exercise, and so I just did a Skype interview. And I think it was like 30 seconds before the interview was supposed to start. Like, my computer died. I rebooted it really fast, and so it turned out to be fine. But I shared that story, and the interviewers are at least in the beginning, very welcoming. They're trying to make you not at edge. So I'd say I was super nervous for the interview, but throughout the process, they're just trying to really get to know you. And so if you look at it from that perspective, I think it's a lot less daunting.
Gotcha. So you're all successful leaders in the military. You make this big pivot to come back to Harvard Business School. Right. How would you answer the question, why is HBS a good fit for veterans?
Actually, I can take this one. I think it marries up really well. I mean, there's maybe a little bit more structure here than at some other business school programs from what I've heard. So, I mean, you're absolutely expected to be on time to class. Attendance is important. They value all those kind of things that we valued in the military. I mean, everyone in the military knows, right? Be on time in the right place in the right uniform. And that's kind of echoed here. The like we've already talked about, the section kind of emulates your unit in the military. So I think there's a lot of parallels, and makes your skills from the military that much more transferable, honestly.
And I would say, as an Annapolis grad, it pains me to say this, but you hear this all the time, that HBS is the West Point of the business world, which I'm going to start saying the Annapolis of the business world.
You can try it.
The Annapolis of the business world. But it really is. It's a boot camp in business, and for someone who didn't have any background in either finance, accounting, or marketing, it really, really helps me to pivot to the private sector.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're not the only ones here pivoting. There's so many people, we're saying it, it's we're going to be the only ones that don't know. There's so many people that don't have finance or accounting backgrounds, and so many people are here looking to pivot. Don't let that be a consideration at all.
Yeah.
Well, to your point, I think 2/3 of the class comes here and changes its industry or occupation.
Yeah.
So as you guys are now getting towards the end of your second year and looking at careers, what's your confidence level about finding the kind of opportunity? I know you got one more year.
Yeah, for sure.
What's your confidence level about finding the kind of opportunity you hoped to when you began this journey?
Yeah, I think I'm in like a great spot right now. I did an internship with consulting over the summer, and so I had an offer before I even started the second year. So that's kind of like a great safety net. My first year, I think I spent, God, it must have been like at least like 100 hours going to like recruiting events and coffee chats, and the school really helps you prepare for all of that. But I think one really great thing about recruiting on campus is it's very, very structured, and the school helps you through that process.
Yeah.
So you're not like, where do I apply? Where do I go? CPD does a lot of great classes before recruiting ever starts. So you kind of already know a place to start, and that's something that I've really appreciated being here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jessica, you got one more year of school.
Yeah, you
go ahead.
So I relied heavily on CPD when it came to career searching. I knew I wanted to do something impactful. I wanted to do something that mattered. I wanted to do something with leadership. I have a lot of friends who've gone outside of the HBS resources to try and find jobs. They've had a lot of frustration with either like not getting calls back. So I was determined to stick to the HBS players who have good relationships with the schools, who were dedicated to like helping people like me find a way into their organization to be successful. So right now I'm deciding between a couple of offers, both general management, rotational leadership programs, and I'm really excited about the opportunity, and I think I owe a lot of that success to my military service, where, you know, tell me about a time when you struggled, or tell me about a time when you've helped diffuse conflict in a team, is a really easy answer, and was like just the beginning of my Monday, let alone like was not the culminating event of the week. It normally happens sometime in like PT formation, and that makes it really easy to communicate like what leadership qualities you bring to an organization, and they'll teach you whatever it is, the skills that they need you to do specifically for that job. They really are looking for leaders who can come in and make a difference.
Tim, any thoughts on that?
I'm an RC as well, so I've got a little bit of time. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'm looking at places that value the experience we have, that value leadership, that value mentorship, both sides of that equation. So, I hope to find mentors where I go, and I hope to eventually be in a position to mentor the people beneath me at some point. So that's kind of what I've been looking for. Like I said, I've been leading management consulting so far. So.
Good. All right, so time for some practical, tactical brilliance here.
Let's do it.
You're moving back to business school. You're coming back to Boston from wherever you are. Where did you decide to live? How was it easy to move? What were the challenges of getting here physically?
Yeah. So last year when I was at the Kennedy School, I lived off campus with two other roommates. It was a great time, but it was about 15 to 20 minutes walking away from Kennedy, and it gets a little cold here, even for a Marine. So this year, I'm on campus. I want to fully live this HBS life. So I'm in a dorm. From my bed to my seat in class is 92 seconds. So it makes sense.
I want that.
Yeah.
I'll trade you.
It's nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I guess I'll take the alternative perspective. What I didn't realize before coming to school was if you have a family, you can get on a priority list for housing. And that's something that I didn't take advantage of because I wasn't aware of it. So I'm living in Cambridge, and I actually really love it. I get to get away from kind of the ecosystem a little bit, and especially with like my family and kind of having my own life. It's been really nice. And then there's so many other people that live in Cambridge that if you're not on campus, it's fine. Like you're gonna have friends that live right next door.
Yeah.
Good.
I'll tack on one thing for the off-campus piece. If you didn't plan your life very well, according to how your MBA was going to end up, and you have a huge dog like I do, you won't be able to live on campus. So, so we're stuck out in Cambridge as well, which is fine. I kind of look forward to EC, and even now, it's nice to escape the HBS bubble. I will say it's nice to be close probably that first year, just to spend time with your section. There's a lot of things that pop up kind of short notice. Like I said, that tempo piece, things are short fuse and they come up really quickly. So it's tough to be involved in those kind of things, but it's great. I mean, Cambridge is a really cool town. We've had a great time so far.
Terrific. So outside of class, you've talked about clubs, you've talked about social life, you talked about family. What do you do outside of class?
So I do a lot actually with the AFAA. I'm the CFO, which is fancy business school talk for treasurer. And I've really enjoyed that, mostly because being on the leadership team for the AFAA, I get to see a lot of the emails that come in, so please keep emailing us. Please keep asking questions. That's my shameless plug. Like, we will find an answer for you, or get it to someone who can give you that good answer. I also do a lot with the Outdoors Club. I was in a volunteer consulting for Impact Club last year. I dibble and dabble with a lot of clubs for industry reasons. and try and go to at least like one industry event that I'm interested in a month. I just try and keep that balance of me time.
Good.
Yeah, for me, I'm in one main club. I'm in the African American Student Union, and we're actually planning a conference, so I'm a panel manager. So I try to do Veterans Club and the African American Club, and it's been a great time. There's so much to do here at HBS that you really have to make deliberate actions on your time. So for me, 2 clubs is more than enough. So my section and my 2 clubs, that's what I do. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I took over the athletic rep for my section, so flag football, softball, we get into a lot of that, which is great. Kind of camaraderie and esprit de corps. So we've enjoyed that. But from a family perspective, on the weekends, there's so much to do. I mean, apple picking, like all those kind of fun things you can do in New England, which has been a blast. Trick-or-treating was really fun this last weekend, so there's a ton to do.
Yeah, if nothing else has sold you on HBS, fall in New England is worth the visit.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
So you came here with a set of expectations or perception about what Harvard Business School was like. You've now had a year or maybe almost 2 under your belts. What's the biggest change from your incoming perception to the current reality?
Yeah. You wanna go first?
Yeah, I think I've said it before, but it's so important to me, I'm going to reiterate it. I wasn't expecting the warmth and generosity that I felt from the rest of the student body. I'm not sure what I expected. I think it was like some of these like cutthroat. I watched Suits, so maybe like the law.
Billions,
the law, yeah,
yeah.
exactly, billions. So I think I was expecting to walk into like more of an adversarial environment, but what I found is just like the nicest, warmest, most generous with their time people that I've met in my life. And they're all incredibly smart, they're all incredibly diverse, and I've just been really blown away by the people.
Terrific.
Yeah, I would say I think I binge watched Game of Thrones to get ready for HBS.
Yes!
Right? I mean, right?
While you're running the marathon or what?
But no, I would
You gotta
say
kill the
like
time with something.
everyone, I think for the most part, is very, very authentic. They're caring, whether it's your finance or whatever background you are. Everyone wants to learn from your experience, and they actually value military leadership. So it was like less Game of Thrones, more like Downtown Abbey. But it was a great experience for my section.
I think for me, I was really blown away by how much people wanted to learn about my military experience. I'm one of 5 veterans in my old section. In EC year, we don't cohort the same way. We get to pick our own classes, which is fun, and so it's very exciting when you see them. But my section has had a strong turnout now for both Veterans Day events, and I'm just very surprised with how much they wanted to know, and not high level. They really wanted to know what my day was like, why I think the way I do, and learn as much as they could from me in those moments. So that surprised me.
Terrific.
Echo all of that. I'll just say like so much laughter throughout the day. It's a great time to be here. Honestly, it's really fun. So.
Okay. All right, we got last chance to pass on some advice. You got one line to give some prospective folks looking at the school. What would you tell them?
Don't rule yourself out. Throughout your time in the military, they always tell you don't self-select.
Yeah.
Don't self-select out of Harvard. You can absolutely get in and you will thrive here. If you think, oh, I'm not up to it, yes, you are. Apply.
I would say take the time to have a good application. So start the GMAT early, line up your letters of rec, and actually have a coherent and cohesive package to present, and you'll be fine.
I think the most important thing for me was being myself in the essay prompt. There's a lot of people who apply who are the best at what they do. And while I've normally been among the best, I can't say I've been the best in any one particular thing. And so I really advise people to write a well-crafted essay about who you are and your why, and be your authentic self at every step in the application process, because if you're not, they will find that.
Yeah. Echo all that. Maybe only other thing, inquire to people who are from a civilian background. Like, what do you think a good way is to approach this? Because if you're only dealing with military people, I don't know. I don't think you're going to get the best feedback. So talk to people who are not from your background. Make sure that you're clear, not using jargon, all that kind of stuff, and presenting yourself in a way that's clear to somebody who doesn't have the same background as you.
Terrific. Well, I'm going to draw this to a close. On behalf of the panel, thank you all very much for tuning in. We hope we answered some of your questions and it was helpful to your thinking about coming to HBS. Please come and visit. We'd love to have you here and be part of the community. Thanks for joining us today.